What is an experience or achievement that you wish you could brag about, but can't because either you don't know anyone who would appreciate it, or it reveals a secret interest? I led to the capture of a murderer by recognizing things that were being sold to me as things that I had sold to the guy who was killed. Basically, I found who killed our best customer and didn't even get a raise. I work at an aquarium and I am one of 2 people in the US that have successfully bred silver fulu, Hoplochromys sargens, in captivity this year. The only other person being my supervisor coworker. They're not the most beautiful fish, but they are currently extinct in the wild, which makes what we do important. One time in college I forgot my TI-89, and I had to index an X-ray diffraction pattern with a slide rule on a timed exam. I succeeded and got an A on the exam, but nobody cared, and all of my friends just think I'm weird if I tell them I know how to use a slide rule. I stop for motorists on the side of the road almost 100% of the time if I see you in time. My grandpa always stopped to help people. He died, now I do it. I was homeless for a few years in my early 20s, not couch surfing, but literally sleeping under a bridge and crap. Then got my crap together, and now at 40 I'm 2 semesters away from earning my BS in biochemistry at one of the top universities in the country, US. Nobody who isn't or who has never been homeless I don't think would really understand how weird it is that I now go to school across the street from where I used to ask for spare change. When I was younger, I got really into Minesweeper, like, really into it. I would play it over and over, just trying to beat my best times. After countless games, I managed to beat the small mode in 3 seconds. It was my crowning achievement. One time I actually did try to brag about it. It was in middle school and we were working in the computer lab. I got done with my assignment, and I decided to play a bit of Minesweeper to pass the time. The girl next to me noticed and was like, "Oh, you actually know how to play that?" Me being the suave ladder killer that I am, responded with, "Yeah, my best time is 3 seconds." I was met with a blank stare, and then she turned back to her screen without a word. I haven't brought it up since. She was so wet she couldn't even look at you. I dated a girl briefly at the end of high school. We broke up, remained Facebook friends, see each other on campus, etc. Several years later I saw a post on Facebook of hers that seemed really odd. She was listing the things she liked about her life and other stuff, which I thought was weird. I found her dad in the phone book, called him to ask if she was okay, and he had me call the police. They went to her dorm and she had slit her throat, wrists, taken a bunch of pills, and was near death when paramedics found her. I was told had I been 5 minutes later she would have died. I saved her life. That gives me warm tingles. She is doing really well now. I bowled a perfect game in my junior league when I was 16. Don't brag because no one takes bowling seriously. Also, it means I peaked 23 years ago. I met my husband through Reddit, through the sub of a hobby. People that don't Reddit just think we met on a dating site. Only Redditors seem to get the sheer chance of how it happened. I have compiled an extremely comprehensive spreadsheet and a folder on my computer detailing the life of every single person that was executed in Kentucky from 1911 to 1962, all based on my personal research in my free time. Completing that spreadsheet was one of the secretly proudest days of my life. I don't even live in Kentucky, but that state's capital punishment history is so fascinating, and so are the stories of the people behind it. Much more fascinating than any other state in my opinion. Also, off the top of my head, I know which states have the death penalty, which ones don't, which ones abolished it and then brought it back, and in which year all of them abolished it, and which methods of execution they have ever used or even vaguely considered using. Also, I can tell you off the top of my head how many people were executed in the electric chair in every single state that used it, as well as how many of those executions were botched and how many of those people were likely innocent. I focus on the electric chair just because the nation's crime history was particularly interesting in the era of its peak, from the 1910s to the 1960s. This is some of the most useless knowledge ever, and it's no fun at parties. And if anyone knew, they would think I was the most strange and morbid person ever. I love this stuff, though. I wonder if this means I should be a historian. I can beat Donkey Kong Country 2, 102%, in less than 2 hours. My record is 1 hour, 58 minutes and 50 seconds. Nobody would understand how cool that is. Then I found out about speedrunning, where that figure is considered pathetic. Speedrunners do 1:35 routinely, and the world record is like 1:31. Insanity. I have a 98-day stake on Duolingo. IRL friends don't care. When I first got together with my wife, I would go down on her for like 20-25 minutes before she got off. Now 7 years later I can get her off in less than 3 minutes. Most people just don't wanna hear about that, but I'm pretty proud of myself, and every time she seems amazed. Mine was probably when I was writing one of my first important math papers. I had a good amount of content already, but I still felt like it was kind of a weak paper. While writing it, I had an idea about another result I could add which would be neat. I thought about it for a while, convinced myself that I could prove it, and sold the idea to my PhD advisor saying I'll be spending a few more days to add that part. I was pretty excited about it and he was excited about it too. Anyway, a couple days later, I actually finished my draft of the proof, tell my advisor that it's working, and start writing down everything properly so that we can start proofreading and eventually submit the paper. And while I'm doing that, I have one of these oh frick moments and realize that one key part of the proof sketch I had written doesn't work. And, thinking about it, it didn't just mean that the proof had to be changed. It meant that the whole mathematical construction I had came up with didn't work. It felt pretty crappy, and meant I'd have to remove that section that I was starting to like a real lot. Anyway, I go take a bath to relax and clear my head, and I go lay on the couch, close my eyes, and start thinking about it, and I had my micro eureka moment. I figured out a really pretty way to change my mathematical construction to make it work and make the proof work as well. That's not a very uncommon thing when you're doing research, but it was the first time I was so happy about what I was doing, and that it felt so much like a personal achievement, with the roller coaster of emotions that went with it. I'm not a very proud person in general, but I definitely felt a lot of pride then. I was really good at organic chemistry. I performed a reaction that created more rings in a single step than anyone had ever done before or since, to my knowledge. It was the cover article on Anju and Chemi, the oldest chemistry journal. I was so proud, and then, nothing happened. I feel like I did something incredible and no one noticed. I quit chemistry several years later after an awesome Nature Chemical Biology paper was met with a similar silence. My fiance and I have managed to save nearly $11,000 for a down payment on a house. We're so close to buying our own home. I'm so excited. No one cares, IRL. His dad is unhappy about it because he doesn't want us to move out. We pay rent, which helps with the mortgage. His mom wants us to move in with her. Our friends already have their own homes, so they just think we're behind the times. But I'm proud of us. I cosplayed as my favorite video game character and the company shared my picture on their Facebook page. 5k plus people liked it. I don't even know 5k people in real life. I've been practicing lucid dreaming and can do it every once in a while, but no one really wants to listen to what you did in fake life. I'm a produced playwright. Among other things, I spent several years working on a full-length poetic prose stage adaptation of John Milton's Paradise Lost. A lot of people shook my hand afterwards, telling me that they cried, that it was the best show they'd seen in years, that it was amazing. It's something I very rarely talk about with the people I interact with day to day. They don't even know I like theater. I saved the life of a man who was going to be executed. In 2007 I got a new girlfriend with a 9-year-old daughter who was abused by 2 different people and had a deadbeat father. She had all kinds of emotional problems, but was a great kid. I stayed with the GF for 6 years longer than I should have because her daughter was like my daughter. Poor kid received every type of counseling there was for years. Fast forward a few years and she's 16 and stable. They moved to another state, but we keep in touch. On Father's Day she emailed me and told me that after all the counseling and medications, the reason she was able to trust men again was because of me. I never felt like a more worthwhile person than that moment, but I've never shared it with anyone before. I beat through the fire and flames on Expert a week ago, after 7 years. I once picked the absolute best package of strawberries the world has ever tasted. I've had organic strawberries. I've been to strawberry farms and picked them myself. I've had homegrown berries. I've had them all. But this one time, I went to the grocery store, saw a particularly promising box. I raised the carton to my nose and smelled it, and it was so perfectly sweet that I knew I must have this carton. They called to me with their fragrance, promising a beautiful mouth orgasm. And did they ever deliver? They were perfectly sweet and tart, and I didn't even need to eat them with sugar or cream. They were perfect on their own. I have never had strawberries like this again. Not even close. Each time I get strawberries now, I'm just left with disappointment. I have kind of a corny way of trying to think of myself as a good person. Sometimes a struggle. I feel I have done things in the past I can't atone for properly. I was set to inherit a moderately large sum of money from a relative to past and realized through conversation with my parents that their share would not even cover their debts. In fact, due to medical expenses during a mix-up with their insurance, they were likely to have to sell their house and radically downsize. My wife and I don't have a lot right now. I work part-time and am in grad school, and she stays at home, and had been daydreaming about paying off bills, having a cushion, buying a house. Well, she very strongly agreed with me that we couldn't really enjoy that stuff while my aging parents faded into near poverty. We have no kids, I have great credit, and after graduation have well-paying work lined up. I called my mom and employed my best persuasive skills to get them to agree to accept our share of the money. It was not the easiest thing. They didn't want to take so much away from their son, and it wasn't exactly fun per se making a spirited debate case in favor of giving away all my money. However, they did agree, and the relief and happiness from them was palpable despite their prior stoic front about the situation. Shortly thereafter, I read an interview with Liam Hemsworth, who described his brother Chris, paying off his parents' debt for them when he first became successful in Hollywood, and how much it meant to them, as well as how impressed by it Liam was. So if I am feeling unworthy, I think of all this, maybe I could at least budge Mjolnir a little. I quit I've been clean almost 7 years now, yay, and I'm a completely different person. Most of the people I spend time with don't know about my past drug use, so it isn't exactly something I want to bring up. But it is my proudest achievement, and the hardest thing I have ever had to do. I also think past a certain point in sobriety, people quit wanting to hear about. At 6 months and a year clean, my family was hugely supportive. 7-year clean date, I'm sure they're all super happy I quit slamming dope, but they probably won't even realize what day it is, which is fine. Honestly, I got clean for me, not for validation. I'm ranked 4th best goalie in Rocket League. It's hard to talk about that in parties, and people always look down on that stuff. I've shot a 1/73 in a golf tournament. I'm probably around a 10 handicap, which puts me in the top 25% of all golfers. I've also hit myself in the face with a golf ball before, which probably puts me in the 1%. I am 29 years old and have had the same 3 friends since I was 3, 6, and 11. That is a total of 67 years of friendship, but I don't think many people think that is an accomplishment. I've written over 1,000 songs for complete strangers on the internet. Most people in my life don't even know I own a guitar. I don't think they would appreciate how much songwriting means to me, and I don't need my co-workers to hear some of these songs, which sometimes are super dark and vulgar, as Reddit likes. I can't really brag about this because it's just make people awkward. I was groped as a child, 20 plus years ago. There were many of victims before me, and would have been more after me if I hadn't outed him to my parents. He's in jail for life, probably dead now actually. Also, our family contacted the parents of other likely victims to tell them, and many of the kids were able to repair their family relationships and get help, all because of me. I forgave the abuser within weeks, and moved on. It never really had any effect on me. I guess I am just lucky or mentally resilient. I honestly do think that I was blessed to have it happen to me. I stopped so much pain and caused so much healing. Pooped for the first time in 2 weeks. My Russian teacher had everyone memorize a poem, and gave it to us in song form as a recording. Instead of simply reciting the poem, I sang it to her. She said it was better than the original and had me record myself. Now 3rd semester Russian students have to listen to me singing as part of their schoolwork. It is how I met the most amazing woman. I was designated driver, owed it to my friends to take them out and didn't want to be there. One of my friends started talking to a girl and because I had nothing else to do I chatted to her friend. I stood no chance as she was way out of my league. She could have been a model but preferred to study. I was relaxed and we just talked. Someone jokingly said, "You two are going to marry." Everyone laughed. By chance I called her the next day. I had nothing to lose. She had just had a minor fender bender some hours before and I simply asked if she was okay. She said some time later that she took an interest in me simply because I was the first person to ask how she was. We have been together for decades. I still pinch myself as to how this ever happened. It was just meant to be. Love will find you. Get out there and make friends. The rest just happens. My GF has diabetes mellitus 1, meaning she is insulin dependent and has to monitor her glucose levels carefully. Before she got on a 24/7 sensor, she got hypoglycemic, as in very low blood sugar that is. She didn't wake up, was not herself, screamed and punched me in panic. She has described the feeling like being torn apart by disgusting monsters or clowns. I usually fixed her with a syringe of glucose to a muscle and an oral glucogel. Fast-acting glucose gel. One day I was just minding my own business in my laptop when she came out of the shower and decided to take a nap. 20 minutes later I hear seizure sounds coming from the bedroom. I rushed, saw her cramping. I checked her glucose levels and it said 1.2. Under that meant coma and close to death. I jumped for her kit, prepared a syringe, grabbed a glucogel and called for an ambulance all in the same 5 seconds, but they felt like forever. 3 minutes later an ambulance arrived, IV access up with dextrose and she came by, but since this was a serious hypoglycemic attack she was rushed to the hospital for overnight stay. The next days after her blood sugar was out of control. Having no idea why, but after a quick googling she found out she was either pregnant or had cancer. A quick pregnancy test later had me mumbling crap for the next few days, but it made me a happy dad a few months later. She had her last hypoglycemic attack during her pregnancy, but thankfully I woke up for that and called an ambulance and the paramedics responded so fast she didn't need hospital administration. I don't look highly on it. I was only saving my love and doing my duty. Since then, thank God for 24/7 glucose sensors I can sleep. I'm among the 8% best in an online PvP game. Family can't understand why a 30-year-old would spend time on that colon. I have several war stories about Quiz Bowl that would be very good if anybody gave a flying frick about Quiz Bowl. I've completed NaNoWriMo twice now, and I've won a couple of writing prizes. I've been writing since I was 7. But I made the mistake of mentioning Nano on Facebook once and now my grandparents ask constantly when they can read my book. Never again. Nope. I enjoy privacy more than recognition. Built my first computer at age 11. Most people couldn't give less of a frick. But dang, back then when I did it, I was super proud of myself. My Dramian, Draco Hermione, fanfic story is one of the most reviewed stories of all time. God have mercy on your soul. You have been visited by the Inspector Doggo. Comment your confession. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.